What's going on, Restoration Nation? Rico Garcia here, yet again with another amazing episode. But before we dive into the episode, I want to go ahead and talk to you about marketing. Look, marketing is one of the most important aspects of not only your business, but honestly, any business out there. And the more familiar you get with the newest methods of marketing and getting your message out there, giving the least amount of friction to find your customer, that's the individual and that's the company that's going to win. Now, for those of you that have been following the podcast or any of my content for any extended period of time, you understand how passionate I am about having business owners and restoration contractors kind of break out of the norm of just hiring a regular marketing company or, doing these methods of marketing that really, quite frankly, just don't work, and the importance of taking control of that aspect of your business. And because I've talked about it so much, and because we've implemented not only in our company, but so many other organizations abroad, I'm finally making it open to the public to give you not only the course material, but also some very special one-on-one coaching calls that as part of our group, you can have access to. Now, what we've decided to do is roll out the Total Ads Domination Suite, where we focused first and foremost on how to dominate Google Ads and PPC advertising. That means pay-per-click advertising. How you can go ahead and identify your competitors, how you can go ahead and write the sickest ad copy that's available, knowing the winning ads and which ones are losing ads. And we walk you through step by step with an entire course with which are pre-recorded video modules that you can watch 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. You can rewind, you can pause, you can take notes, you can go ahead and watch these things over and over and over. But then on top of that, just to make this foolproof for you, what we've also done is every week, once a week, we get together with our students, people of our community. We jump on a Zoom call and we can go ahead and troubleshoot anything that you might be experiencing. Maybe you're not getting the ROI that you want. Maybe you're having trouble coming up with good sales copy. Maybe you haven't been able to identify your top competitors so that you can go ahead and clone or mimic what it is that they're currently doing and how you can make it your own. Whatever technical question it is that you have, not only myself, but also other people from the community are on this group, and we can all go ahead and share together. So if you want to take control of your marketing, if you want to go ahead and literally have business on demand in any market, wherever it is that you decide to go, then you're going to want to participate in the Total Ads Domination course and coaching program. It's definitely something, if you're looking to go ahead and expand and you're looking to go ahead and stay competitive in the industry, this is that one thing that could give you the next leg up over your competitor. So make sure that you check it out. There's going to be a link in the video description below, as well as in the show notes, if you want to go ahead and take care of that. I'm also going to be throwing in something really cool. So if you click the link, you're going to get a couple of free resources. You're going to get a Google Ads ROI calculator. So that way you can go ahead and do some happy math, meaning how much money it would take for you to put in and how much you can expect to get out based on your ad spend, as well as giving you a running head start by providing you with a negative keyword list, which, believe it or not, is just that alone is going to save you thousands of dollars once you start on your journey. So make sure that you go ahead and click the link below. You're going to go ahead and get a free resource. And then from there, if you decide to go ahead and be part of the tribe, if you want to go ahead and take care of your marketing, then you're going to have an opportunity to go and purchase the course and now become part of the community. All right, guys, and before we jump into the show, I also want to give a big shout out to our show sponsors, C&R Magazine. If you haven't gotten your subscription of C&R Magazine yet, make sure that you head on over to cnrmagazine.com, hit the big red subscribe button, get your subscription today. Keep your finger on the pulse of the market. It's always going to be fun. Also, big shout out to Company Cam. As per usual, Company Cam is one of our favorite apps that we're consistently using on a day-to-day basis on our restoration business, but more on them later. Also, guys, before we jump into the podcast, I want to let you know we got something really exciting where we can go ahead and interact and really start hearing from you, because again, your voice matters. We bring in guests that we believe are going to be influential to your business, that can go ahead and help you get to that next level, but we want to hear from you. So what we've done is we have a restoration hotline. This is going to be a phone number where you can pick up the phone, shoot us a call, and then you can drop us a voicemail. And that phone number is 678 Talk to Us. And that's TALK, the number 2, US. So 678 Talk to Us. Pick up the phone, shoot us a call. Let us know. I want to hear your comments. I want to hear your thoughts. If you've got, some of your favorite episodes and you want to make commentary on those, go ahead and drop it in the inbox. If you have any guests that you'd like to see, or if you'd like to ask some of our upcoming guests some very specific questions, just go ahead and pick up the phone, shoot us a call, drop us a line, and just leave us your name, company name, and whatever comment and or question. Then what we'll do to say thank you and to show our appreciation for all of the love and all of the support that we're getting from you guys, what we'll do is we'll go ahead and we'll pull that and plug it into the actual episode and give you and your company a quick shout out, which is always going to be nice. And it's just be a really great way for us to all interact. And I think that it would be an amazing way for you guys to get some very specific questions answered questions answered. I got it right the first time. On a different note, in other news, also keep an eye out for the legal corner as well as the public adjusting corner. So outside of our regular programming, we are now going ahead and launching 2 more additional episodes each and every single month. So the legal corner is with Lawyer Brittany Alexander. I'm sure some of you already are familiar with Lawyer Britt across the social media channels, YouTube, things like that. She is our legal corner, and we just did our very, very first podcast, which again, if you have questions for her specifically, if you have contract questions, if you've got anything related to, the legal realm, what statutes are coming down, what, things could potentially affect your business on the legal side, then make sure that you dial that 678 Talk to Us phone number and leave a message or leave us a case study, maybe a scenario that you have a question about. So that's going to be once a month. We're going to have the legal corner that's going live. And then we also have our very own Carlos Machine, the claims machine, getyourclaimpaid.com, who's going to be helping us out with the public adjusting corner. And we're going to be discussing policy. We're going to be discussing when is a good time to bring in a public adjuster, when is not a good time to bring in a public adjuster, tons and tons of case studies. So I think that that's going to be really exciting. And if you've got any thoughts and or comments about, public adjusting, or if you're a restoration contractor, should I really use a public adjuster, right? Or your initial thoughts on that. Again, we want to hear from you. 678 Talk to Us, and we'll go ahead and we'll pull that, put it into the podcast, and that way it's like we're having a conversation with each and every single one of you. So without further ado, let's talk about today's episode, because it's really exciting. This is our very first time that we have a returning guest, which is the roof strategist. Adam is such an amazing individual. I love the way that he breaks down selling and the psychology of selling and the mechanics of selling and everything that you need to do in order to become a better salesperson. So this is the second time that Adam now joins us, and we have tons of fun on this particular episode, because what we're going to be talking about is just the importance of role play. And that's obviously one of the things that we talk about. We take several deep dives into other arenas as well, but I really want to highlight this and go into the podcast with this thought. As a restoration contractor, as a roofer, or even as a public adjuster, right? We all believe that we're so great at what it is that we do and that we're so great at selling, and that may very well be the case. However, there's something to be said about being polished, about knowing exactly how you're going to overcome objections. There's also a certain degree of comfort that you give to the consumer, the customer, the person that you're trying to sell, when you are, that sharp, when you know that you're overcoming objections before they even pop up. And Adam is a true and genuine master when it comes down to this. We talk about the importance of role play in your organization. We talk about word tracks. We talk about NLP. Lots and lots of great content that's going to be covered on this podcast. So without further ado, let's jump into the podcast. Let's go.
Owning any type of restoration business is demanding of your time, your energy, and resources. And that's why we're here. This is Restoration Domination, If you're a contractor in water mitigation, mold remediation, biohazard cleanup, roofers, or public adjusters, you'll learn how to dominate using some of the techniques and strategies that our guests will share. We'll interview top industry insiders, movers and shakers, hustlers and hackers, and anyone dominating their industry. This is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, and dominate. And here's your host, Rico Garcia.
All right, guys, what is going on? Adam, what's up, man? Welcome back to the show.
Good to be back. Thanks for the invitation. It's an honor.
The re-invitation. This is like officially, this is kind of a big deal for me because this is like my official double guest now. Like this is like you're the first person that's already been on the show once, and you know I figured it was such good, high-end, quality content that I was like, man, we just need to get Adam back on. I'm really happy you're back.
Take it. Well, appreciate it, man. Thanks for the honor to be here. You know, you brought us last time in just such a deeper direction than I expected and asked some really awesome questions. We got to really peel back the layers. So
yeah.
See what you have in store for me today.
Well, I don't know if I've got, I mean, usually I'm like a one-hit wonder. Like, so, the second time around, I don't know. But look, man, one of the things that really impressed me about your style of selling is really just your ability to, as a matter of fact, I think I did a Instagram video today about that. It's just how well you dissect and articulate the nuances of the selling process and the psychology behind that. I've always considered myself to be a pretty decent salesperson and a steady of, those arts, but I just don't have that ability to really break it down. As a matter of fact, you did a YouTube video recently. What was it? He who cares less or something along those lines.
Oh yeah. Close more by caring less.
Yeah. I'm like, I said something on the podcast and then you didn't even know that that's what I was going to say, but then you just put this like beautiful spin on it and you articulate it so much better. So my style has always been of fishing is like with a club, and you're much more of an angler.
I mentioned you, I think, in that episode, by the way.
You did, yeah.
Inspired by our conversation. So I appreciate that, man. Yeah.
So you've got some new stuff going on, which I know is pretty exciting. So can we talk about like some of the developments in your side of the world and, and training and all that stuff?
Yeah, sure. We won't spend too much time on it, but just to update. So our core service offering is an all-in-one sales training, sales strategy, and sales system that's being used by thousands of people as we speak. I think we're in every single U.S. state, even Canada and Australia, for both storm and retail, from companies who started just yesterday. I mean, I guess I can't say just yesterday because that company didn't join us, but brand new companies to quite a number of the top 100 roofing companies in America. And what we do is provide that full sales system in a lightning fast training. And we just announced a bunch of new material on that from our management rollout guide, which when you get your hands on training, it's how do I implement, how do I hold my team accountable, how do I integrate with my systems, to our role play training. Because, in roofing sales specifically, and I guess this could go for water mitigation, for fire restoration, we only are doing each salesperson or person who's in charge of bringing deals in is only doing, let's say, I don't know, 175, 100, even 150 jobs in a year. Maybe it's higher volume, by the way, on the water side, right? But my point is, let's say you get this one objection. If there's 5 top objections, you literally get rehearsal of 30 to 50 on the fly. And every time we mess up, it costs us money. So I'm a big fan of doing role play because we work out those repetitions. So I have a new role play training to break down, again, this is for the roofing industry, specifics of each scenario. So we know canvassing, here's all the different scenarios. We're at the door, what homeowner could say, objections, how do we handle them, closing, how to handle them. And then also just released our new sales leadership training, which is like a diagnostic flow that I've developed over the years to help coach each rep through a massive breakthrough so you can develop a powerhouse sales team. So all that's new. And then we made some enhancements for folks who are interested in continuing their journey once their team's trained up to develop their team through our ongoing support system and ongoing mentorship inside the Pitch Pro movement, which is a way to work with us on an ongoing basis, myself and 4 other expert mentors, to receive weekly sessions. By the way, multiple times a week, there's 10 in a month. Support for the team, support for owners and leaders, And more on that later. Not everyone's a good fit for it, but it's a really fun way to continually work together and then fine tune those skills that we develop, because the core training brings us from zero to hero, right? Or if you're a football fan, you got to understand the playbook. So I provide that playbook and the training for it. But once people are out in the field, like once you reach the NFL, you just practice harder with more specificity, more intensity, and a dedicated coaching staff. So that's what we provide in there. So that's just a super fast version of what's cooking, man. And it's been a lot of fun.
Yeah, I'm sure it's been a whole lot of work too. A lot of fun and a lot of hard work.
It is. There's a lot of,
like, people don't quite understand. They don't wrap their head around about how much time, energy, and mental bandwidth it takes to take everything out of your head and put it down on a piece of paper and then make it a cohesive training program. Like, it's a lot. It's a lot. You're like, Rico, don't get me started. I'm about to break down in tears right now.
It's something, man. No, I appreciate it. I appreciate you asking. So if anyone has questions, you can email me, adam@roofstrategist.com, or you can call our office. We can call or text is fine, 303-222-7133. That's 303-222-7133.
And we'll have that linked in the video description as well as in the show notes below. So let's talk about role play, man. I mean, role play for me is one of the most important aspects of selling. And you may or may not have recalled, but I was in the brokerage business for a very, very long time, right? And part of every single day that we walked into the office, we were role playing.
Yeah.
Without exception. And it was crazy because everybody knew the presentation front to back. Mm-hmm. But we still role played. And what was amazing is that even veterans would get hung up sometimes, or they just weren't feeling that sharp. It just wasn't the day for them. But then, role play would help calibrate and kind of put people, back in the right mind frame, right? So in the roofing industry, I know that you guys have really adopted that. And I know that you definitely push that quite a bit. The restoration industry, from what I've gathered and from what I've seen, hasn't really used that quite a bit. And I don't quite understand why, because again, there's still selling involved, right? Even if it's a simple sell, which is, hey, just sign on this, dotted line, but there's still a transaction that's taking place.
Yeah.
Right. So let's talk to me about that. Like, what are your views on the importance of role play, what that does to the effectiveness and the confidence of the individual who is delivering that pitch, and kind of take it on from there?
Yeah, absolutely. I believe that we don't rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our training. And that was taught to me. I was a firearms trainer. And I remember, especially when you start doing some more, by the way, I know that guns are divisive topic. So for anyone that hates guns, get the concept from here, which is under high stress situations, we fall back on our training. We do not rise to the occasion. We don't shoot and perform at our best under pressure. We actually fall back and say, what level of skills have I developed? And if you want to take the firearm side out of it, you could even say football. If you're on the line lined up and you don't know your plays and you read the defense and you throw an audible, if everyone doesn't know that play, you're just running around like a chicken with your head cut off. And sales is no different. We do not rise to the occasion. We sink to the level of our training. And so many people say, I just perform better under pressure. And, I do my best out in the home. And when I'm right there and I just drive on the energy. And in my opinion, and it might not be popular opinion, I might rub some people the wrong way, but it's not true. People don't do that. You think you do. It's because no one is watching you. And the reality is, when we only have a fixed number of customers to serve, you're never going to master your craft in the field, in the real world. And every mistake you make, that customer is essentially reaching in your pocket and taking money out of your pocket. So what we want to do is practice repetition. So rehearsal is repetition. When I get this objection, I'm equipped to handle it. When this comes up, I'm equipped to handle it. When I talk about our value proposition, this is how we do it. So without repetition, we're really just doing our best and literally practicing in a high stakes scenario where our livelihood depends on it, our commission, earning the job, getting the business, winning the customer. So our objective with role play is to work through those repetitions so we can perform at a really high level in high stakes situations. The other reason we do it is because, and by the way, I just got back from training a company out in Akron, Ohio. And their top salesperson came up in role play. And by the way, I'm not calling him out. He's a great guy. By the way, top producer, so you can't fault him. But my point, and I've done this, by the way, almost every company, the top producer is the one that shakes the most. And it's not a fault to anyone. I'm not throwing anyone under the bus. But being in a room with your peers, and the reason I think top producers struggle more is they have pressure. They wear this badge of honor, which by the way, they should. Be proud. If you're that top guy, be proud, but stake your claim and hold it, because there's people gunning for you. And that's the beauty of sales, is that
Right.
competitive nature. But everyone's looking at you and you're in the spotlight, right? It's like celebrities are in the spotlight. A celebrity can't get caught picking his nose, yet any everyday person driving their car, you just chuckle. But if you saw Tom Hanks pick his nose, it's going to be all over the media. So you're the top sales rep. That's essentially Tom Hanks of the company. Everyone's going to be watching you. But when we're out in front of our company with our team of peers and owners, leaders, managers, sales managers, whoever it might be, that is a higher pressure situation than we face in the field. So if we learn to develop thick enough skin and confidence and steady our nerves to perform at a very high level in that environment, anything that you face in the real world is a cakewalk. So learning to be comfortable in the discomfort is really what it's all about. So that's the kind of foundation. And I can get into my philosophy here as well. I'm sensitive to just running. So you just let me know where you want me to roll with this thing.
No, that's fine. But yeah, so the other thing too is what I call verbal diarrhea, right? So there's great salespeople that don't quite really understand why they're great. They're just great. They just get it either. There's a myriad of reasons as to why. But there's other people that, didn't quite, they understand their product really well, that they're really good people, but they're having problems selling, and they probably know their product and or service better than anybody else. But because there's this missing aspect of role playing throughout the presentation, no one's there to be like, dude, you lost me like 10 minutes ago.
Yeah.
Which happens, right? Because there is a such thing as talking yourself outside of a deal. So there's so much more than just, getting really nice and crisp, which I do want to talk about getting, crisp, because there's the flip side to that is some people feel that, hey, if you can get too clean in your sales presentation where it almost feels too canned, too rehearsed, and they remove the emotional aspect of it, which I think that's part of the flaw in the training, perhaps, because it should still be there. Like, your personality should still be there. But have you noticed that that those group settings, that role playing aspect helps condense and maybe purify or distill the essence of a presentation and just shorten the path from presentation to close?
It's a mirror. And there's a big disconnect too. I think this is especially common with newer salespeople. There's what we think. There's what we think we say. There's what the customer hears. So many times I'll give you an example. There's a rep with our company. We'll call him Tom. And just in case he's tuned in. So Tom, who's not Tom, was a hardwood floor salesperson. And exceptional service, salt of the earth. Like, you'd meet him and you'd be like, Tom, I just want to give you a hug. Like, he just gave you that feeling. By the way, most good companies attract good people. Problem is, people who are good with people don't know how to channel their good with people skills into closing deals. So Tom was one of those people, and he was struggling in sales. So I sat down with him, and the tough part, being the youngest guy in the company, running people my dad's age, Tom was older. And I sat down and I'm like, Tom, your sales are not super strong. What's going on, man? Like, you're out there, and in our business, we are door to door. So whether it was door to door, we did have inbound leads. He just wasn't closing them. I said, Tom, what are you saying? And then he tells me, well, I'm telling the customer this, this, and this. And he told me all the right things. And this was right when I started doing role play. So we do role play. By the way, I was even nervous. I was like, I've never done this before. Now I'm acting in front of these people. It's weird and uncomfortable. And then now it's not. I encourage, I'm doing role play with companies I train. I'm like, put me in the seat. I don't care. Like, I'll show you. I'll mess up. You guys critique me. But anyway, Tom's there. We do our little role play. And then he answers the door. And the pitch he gave me, I had to lift my jaw off the floor. I was like, that's what you say? No wonder you're having problems. So what he thought he was saying versus the words that were coming out versus what the customer is hearing, they were all three different. And I find this a lot when I work with reps. So that's step one, is learning to understand that what you think and what you think you say and what they hear are very different elements. So our mission is to understand what our customer is hearing and reverse engineer the right way to say it that matches what we're thinking. So role play is the best way to do it because our team acts as a mirror. And you'll start saying things, and the funniest part, it's like a strong relationship. If you're married or have a girlfriend, boyfriend, our partners mirror our neuroses. my wife's my business partner, by the way. She's sitting here on the other side of the desk, not right now. But this morning we had an internal team meeting, and she was giving me feedback because she's never like seen me often because her office is in a separate building. And she's like giving me this feedback about leadership. And I'm like, damn, I didn't know that because I'm too close to it. But you're here witnessing me in our team meeting on Zoom. So the reason I share that and to make myself vulnerable is even things I do without that mirror there to give you that feedback, you don't see these things. Or I'm more conscious, like I was multitasking. Why? Because I'm stressed. I've got a lot going on. It's like, can I get these couple things done? And it's not fair to my people. It's not fair to anyone who I'm in conversation with. And I would never want someone doing it to me. And I was glad. But I was also self-aware. Right before she called me out, I'm like, oh, I shouldn't be doing this right now on my other monitor. Okay.
But you're still doing it.
Then I'm like, okay, I gotta cut her out. So the reason I share that is that level of vulnerability helps us spot our weaknesses and improve. And there's things I'll watch sales reps, which by the way, one of my rules of role play is you don't stop. You can't tell a homeowner, oh, wait, I screwed up. Can we go back to the very beginning? This doesn't exist. So you got to roll through. How many times sales reps will be like, that was really stupid.
Yeah.
I'm like, yep, because you have an audience.
Right. Which, it's weird because when I was, so my way of training people when it came to selling, and mind you, it was a slightly different environment, but the same rules still apply. If there was an individual that they would do that a lot, I would play to that. So if there was like someone who had problems with confidence, I would purposely have them stutter more. It was weird. And now don't ask me why this would work, but their sales numbers would go up. So in other words, like it's kind of like cracking a joke. Like, if you just have like this weird, like, quirkiness about you, it's better for you to kind of crack a joke about yourself. And everything else from there is just like, great. So like there's this whole aspect of, I believe even in role playing to where you can be really vulnerable in front of a crowd and then identify really where your strengths and your weaknesses are. And I do believe that there is, under the right environment, for those weaknesses to become super, super strong strengths, because no one can mimic it, right? Because look, not everybody wants to necessarily do business with like the super, super sharp salesperson because they're like, hey, he was almost too sharp, right? Some people want to do business with, someone who's a little bit more meek, a little bit more this, whatever. There's someone for everyone.
Pot for every
I think
lip.
There's like a happy middle.
My wife says there's a pot for
There
every
really
lip.
is.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Yeah. But the important thing here about the whole role playing, right, is just being able to identify these things that maybe you weren't able to identify before, but then also having someone with a critical eye say, you know what? I know that you don't like this aspect about you and you really wish that you can change that. But let's dress this up a little bit. Let's play with this. And all of a sudden, this like thing starts to happen in their presentation, and you're like, there you go. That's magic, right? Like if you listen to like a lot of artists, right? A lot of recording artists. I mean, probably no one modern day, but anyways, some of like the older older artists, by all stretches of the imagination, they didn't have a great voice. What they had was a unique voice, right? And that's what part of the appeal is. And I think the people need to just feel really comfortable with that. Now, one last thing, and then I'll let you go back into the whole role play thing. This applies to every business. Like if you are having a conversation with any kind of customer, you should be doing this. If you are a public adjuster and you don't have some kind of a script, some kind of rebuttals or that are already written up and that you're practicing, if you don't have that, like there's someone else out there who is pre-gaming, who is trying to get better at their way of communicating. Oh, if you're not training, as a restoration company, if you're not training your techs, your lead estimator to make a customer feel comfortable, to make them feel like, hey, you are in fact the only choice for me. If you're not addressing those concerns and you're not doing that in a role-playing setting, like I think you guys are like in for like a rude awakening. Like this needs to be common practice.
Yeah, absolutely. It's funny. People say, what's the rule of thumb? Which, by the way, I don't think is true, but they say you're quote unquote an expert after 10,000 hours. So let's just take that philosophy. Yeah. What does that mean? They have a lot of experience, and for some reason, at that magic, after 9,999 hours, you're 10,000th hour, you are now an expert. Boom. So I don't really believe with that, but what I believe is that with experience, we become more competent, and competence breeds confidence. You want to be competent, you practice. You want to be confident, you practice. You want to become a master, you get more practice in. You don't pick up a guitar, which I can't play guitar, by the way, but you can't pick up a guitar and be like, I'll practice once a week and be great. So if it doesn't apply to athletics, fitness, diet, strength, or anything else, learning a new skill, communication, learning language, math skills, why in the heck do you think that you can just all of a sudden show up and be really good communicating? So if you're one of those people, which they exist, that sales is a dirty word, which by the way, I think it's an internal problem, which I know there's many people, we don't sell, we're service. By the way, I'm a service-based sales approach. Sales is just a fancy way of saying a conversation that results in guiding someone to making the right decision that's for them. Hopefully you have a better product and service and you can communicate it clearly and win that. That aside, end of rant, you need to practice your service communications, whatever word you want to put on it, to be able to communicate effectively. And for the water guys and gals that show up at a house, like, you need to be able to communicate clearly. You said it, my favorite C word, comfortable. You put someone in a place where they feel comfortable and confident choosing you. And it doesn't matter what it is. It could be just practicing empathy, practicing communicating what you do from an empathetic tonality as opposed to an authoritative tonality. So that aspect of repetition for training's sake is just critically important.
Now that you mentioned tonality, in your training, have you ever had to, women make a lot of the buying decisions when it comes to the home. Even though the guy might be, the male, of course, is the alpha, we're all guys, we beat our chest, but we always for the most part, honey, what do you think? Right? For the most part. So I've caught quite a few sales reps that are, sometimes, in some cases, they bring in great numbers, but they're really missing the boat with the whole mansplaining things to women. Is that ever anything that comes up in your training, to where you've kind of had to show the importance of tonality and how there are good ways to explaining your product and or service, and that there's bad ways of explaining your product and or service depending on who your audience
Absolutely.
is?
So let's get uncomfortable here. I just actually did a video on tonality, and I just went through this in this training this week when I was out in Akron. So the word, oh yeah, okay? Oh yeah. Now we can create a lot of different meaning from one word. All right. So we've got the inquisitive. Oh yeah? It's a question. Okay. We've got, by the way, this is a shout out to all the 1990s wrestling fans, Randy Savage. Oh yeah, right? We're really rallied up. We're assertive. We're in agreement. Okay. Then there's this neutral. Oh yeah, we're just agreeing with someone. And then we have, oh yeah.
I don't even want to know.
I know.
Family
so this more, let's just call it what it is. Erotic use of the same tone means 4 different things. And so many people that I've trained, I remember I was out, I've told this story before. I'm out training a company, I think we were in Virginia, if my memory serves me. About 7 years ago. I'll never forget this. I just taught this rep how to use the negative agreement. Do you have any objection? Okay. Do you have any objection if we hop on your roof for complimentary inspection? We'll show you what we find. And what I didn't teach him specifically was the tonality. So the tone he used was very forward. Do you have any objection if I hop up on your roof for a complimentary inspection? And then it didn't work. So we're going back to the truck, and he's like, dude, he was pissed. He's mad at me. And I'm like, cool your jets, bud. And he's a young guy at the time. By the way, now they're killing it. Their company's 5x'd in growth. He's leading a team of 40 sales reps or 50 sales reps. But anyway, young guy at the time. So I'm like, we'll talk in the truck. So we get back in the truck, and I'm like, all right, here's what went wrong. So I broke down the tonality and the body language. He went and used it on the next door. Actually, let me take that back. I went and used it on the next door. We went 3 for 3. 3 knocks, 3 inspections. I was like, see what happens when we just master that tonality? And likewise, in this training this week, there's a gentleman who is just killing it. Really good sales rep. He is direct and more confident than I am. I mean this sincerely. Some of the stuff in the role play, I'm like, are you that bold in the house? He closed a deal. He had a new rep shadowing him. He closed a deal saying to upsell and upgrade, saying, don't do it for you, do it for me. And the customer bought. And I am like, never in a million years, dude, would I ever do this. So what I teach is that there's really, of course there's multiple tonalities, but there's 2 to really focus on. One is authority, right? Sounding like a doctor, speaking from experience, knowing what you're talking about. This is authority or empathy. And oftentimes the empathetic tone is overused if you're mansplaining. So the main thing is to understand when and how to shift. If you're explaining how something works, use authority. Don't talk about it empathetically or anything like that, or don't talk inquisitively, because then you just sound condescending. It drives me nuts. I have a friend of mine who talks like that, and it makes you feel like you don't know anything. So just use authority when you're explaining things. Use empathy when you're listening. Simplest way to break it down, the 2 tones to master. And again, there's more. You could unravel that into lots of others and different nuanced scenarios. But high level, those are the 2 that I teach people: is authority. You know what you're talking about. You're explaining how things work. I don't care who you're talking to. You use authority. And then empathy when you're listening and responding, especially to objections. So does that answer your question, Rico?
Absolutely. And as soon as we get back, what we're going to do is we're going to talk about being bold. And I think that this is such an important topic, because being bold is the inner game of selling. But hold on to that thought. Hey, Restoration Nation, as restorers, we all know the importance of proper documentation and making sure that your estimates are as tight as possible. Well, if you want to go ahead and make sure that you have the tightest estimate available, then what you need to check out is Partial. If you head on over to mpartial.io/domination, and that's the letter M, partial.io/domination, we got an amazing offer for you from our sponsors, which is over 99% off their enterprise plan. Now, you may be asking, what exactly is Impartial? Well, let me tell you why this is such amazing software. Number one, if you're already using Matterport as part of your pre and or post mitigation or any of the services that you use, what they do through Impartial Scope is it allows you to generate a carrier-worthy style estimate by taking relevant data points from your pre and post Matterport scans. Super awesome, super convenient stuff. Now, aside from that, Impartial also offers some amazing other services, such as their ability to convert estimates from Xactimate over to Symbility, as well as the added benefit of what they call Impartial Embed. And by using Impartial Embed, what this allows you, the contractor, to do is to really maximize all of the ability of your Matterport scans by embedding tags as well that are timestamped, and just allow a lot more information to be attached to the current projects that you're at, which of course, ultimately on the carrier side, eliminates a lot of the fraud, and more importantly, a lot of the back and forth. I mean, it kind of all is in the name, Impartial. It's meant for you to go ahead and provide this data, right? This real live data that you captured with your Matterport, and then provide an estimate to the carrier that really there's nothing that they could really push back on, right? So it's an amazing software. I would go ahead and recommend for you to go ahead and check out impartial.io/domination. Again, that's impartial.io/domination. We've got a really special discount code there for you, so that way you can take it a spin and see how you can make this part of your daily practice in your restoration company. Photo documentation is possibly one of the most important aspects of what it is that we do in the restoration business. Not only so that the client knows exactly what's going on, but also so that you can prove your work to insurance companies. One of the best ways that I found to go ahead and document our projects is by using Company Cam. Company Cam is an amazing app. It has so many features, everything from timestamped and GPS located photos, individual project files, unlimited photo storage, in-app communication with your crew, a live stream of all of your projects as the photos are coming in, as if it was an Instagram feed. So from a managerial standpoint, Company Cam can help you there as well. But more importantly, it gives you the ability to protect your organization while documenting and keeping everything nice and neat. So we've got a really special offer for you. If you go to companycam.com/dominate, not only will you get your 14-day free trial, but you're also going to get the first 2 months 50% off. So again, head on over to companycam.com/dominate, get the app, and I'm sure you're going to love it. All right, so now that we're back, let's talk about being bold. That gentleman that you were just describing on the first half, you were like, I would never, ever do that, right? Or for whatever, you probably could. Like you could gear yourself up to it. But this is that unique aspect that I was talking about. That's someone, if they're doing it, is because it's part of who they are. That's their unique thing. Maybe they learned it, right? But that's their thing. So I have a very like matter of fact way of selling. Like, yes, I'm factual. Yes, I'll go ahead and I'll push the buttons. Yes, I'll go ahead and I perfect my craft. I box close. I'm doing all of the tie downs and the micro agreements. I'm doing all of that good jazz, right? But ultimately, I'm really comfortable with just asking for the order and asking it in my way. And that works for me. And then other people have tried it and I'm like, that doesn't work for me, Rico. But like, yeah, that's cool because you're just not comfortable saying what I'm saying. It's like, I've had so many deals where it's like, dude, you got that deal? I was like, yeah. I was like, what did you say? I said this. I'm like, oh my God, that's crazy. But it's part of who I am. So the question then becomes, does role play in and of itself, or the repetition of a script or the rebuttals, can it get you to that point to where you can, in fact, like become that person that to have that degree of comfort? Or should you try to use a script and or rebuttals to conform to what your natural state is? Or is there a happy medium?
Really good question. I believe, so let me share my philosophy. I teach formulas. I don't teach word for word scripts ever. There's certain times that key language is beneficial, like looking for a negative agreement. Do you have any objection if, right? That's specific language. But what I teach at the door is the SLAP formula. Say hi, break the ice, let them know why you're there, ask an open-ended question, present to their answer. ARO is my objection handling formula. Acknowledge, reassure, overcome. There's more on that and the different categories of objections. And then my in-home sales framework, car park. Okay, so all these, the reason I do this, and let me explain. First is when you mention the keyword, confidence. Everyone needs to be confident in a certain way. If you gave me your script, it would not feel natural for me. I wouldn't feel confident. The homeowner would see through it and it would feel forceful and high pressure. I'm in a fortunate position now because I serve literally thousands of customers. And then we have even multiplied by that by a lot in our audience on YouTube. I hear from sales reps all the time. I hear it a lot. My script doesn't work. My company wants to say this. It makes me feel like a sleazy car salesperson. By the way, no offense to anyone from car sales. That's just a category that people use. I know a lot of very good people who came from car sales. So anyway, that aside. My point in sharing that. Yeah.
Right? For president.
So my reason in sharing that is these scripts in general might work for one person, but not the next. In addition to that, every service offering is different. So I'm probably going to offend some people here. If you're selling, let's just use pest control as an example. I know that's not restoration, but this is an easy answer. Okay. I show up. Do you have bugs? Yes, I can sell you something. Okay. Very simple. We have one scenario. If you show up in the middle of a water loss, you have water coming in your house, I can stop it and clean it up. Okay, pretty simple. Roofing, not so simple. If you're dealing with an insurance claim, has the insurance been out yet or not? Excuse me, let's start with the first one. Do they even know they have damage? Have they filed a claim yet? So we have no claim. Partial payment, insurance comes out paying for repairs. Denial, they came out and denied the claim. Or they're sitting on a check. Okay, within these is different mindsets. No claim, what are you talking about? What damage? My roof is fine. Or they're like, hey, tell me how bad it is. Maybe it's right after a severe weather event. Partial payment, they either agree with the insurance, hey, we were out, they're just paying for a few small repairs, we're good, they think the adjuster has their back. Or they're irate, I've been paying my premiums and I deserve a new roof. Same thing with a denial, all right? And then on a check in hand, they don't want you an estimate, they don't want you on the roof, they just want an estimate. So now we've got 7 different mindsets to present to. So you can't do a canned pitch. This is why canned pitches fail. This is why canvassers who are trained to go out there fail. And in the house, when you actually start breaking down the true scenarios that your customer, whether it's water loss, fire loss, doesn't matter. There are different scenarios. The severity of it. Do they need help right this minute? Is this something that can wait? If it's a mold issue and you're doing mold remediation, that doesn't necessarily need to start the minute the phone rings, right? They're getting estimates, they're figuring it out. So we have different levels of urgency, different levels of need. So if you think that this one canned presentation word for word is going to work, it's a joke. It just doesn't. You can prove it by breaking down those scenarios and figure out which one of your canned pitches will work. And no one is equipped to memorize 7 different angles. So that's scenario 1. Scenario 2, the reason we teach formulas, let's just take a break for a second and talk cooking. Cooking, Rico, have you ever watched... do you ever watch cooking shows or like cooking challenges, or am I just a food geek? Okay,
yeah.
So let's talk to your wife.
Yeah, so by
That's
default,
right. By default,
that means
my wife does, and I sit there with her.
Yeah.
So
I
I love
there
that
with her,
stuff.
so
So
yeah.
I'm just going to use food example because I'm a food guy. I like cooking too. So if I gave, let's say I had a cooking challenge. I got 10 chefs. All right. And the 10 chefs have all different cultural backgrounds and they're in different areas and they grew up with different upbringings and styles. So I say, hey, chefs, classic cooking show, right? Here's your mystery box challenge. You have 5 ingredients: steak, potatoes, butter, salt, pepper. Make me a dish. And then all the chefs go back and you could do a sous vide steak, a reverse seared steak, grilled steak, bone in, filet. You could do mashed potato, baked potato, hash browns, twice baked, steak fries. Every chef can combine those in any sort of area, and then the result is he or she plates that dish and describes it passionately with confidence. This represents the steak that my grandmother made me when I was a kid growing up in Colombia, and she used to do it this unique little way, and this is the cut, and this is the potato. And the next guy says, in New York, this is how we do it. We always had Sunday dinner. But what comes together is a cohesive dish with all the elements. So I don't believe in scripts. I believe in teaching formulas to create that confidence. And practicing role play allows people to be agile, to be able to learn to think on their feet, to learn how all the ingredients of a proper presentation at the door, a handling of objections, or presenting allows each person to knock down the proper dominoes and get back on track. And with repetition, you're like, oh, just like you said, I do box tie downs. I do, I get my agreements. I do this, I do that. You've done it so much that you know what to do when. So you have your own framework up here. Newer people at this haven't done it and they wing it or talk their way through it and then it falls apart. That's like trying to bake without a recipe. By the way, I hate baking because it's too sciencey. So, it's like trying to cook a steak and you're like, what temperature does the inside need to be? I don't know, like 200. Okay, you just killed the steak. So when we right. practice this role play, we get in the repetition and we can start following these frameworks. So I know we went on a really long tangent, but I felt that it was very valuable for everyone listening to learn. Canned pitches don't work. Word for word does not work. There's key phrases that can be helpful. I shouldn't say it doesn't work. It could. It's not my style, and a lot of people will have turnover because it doesn't feel authentic. So that's my philosophy on teaching all right. that, and that's why I like role play to practice those and get those repetitions in, because then it starts running on autopilot.
So for the roofers that are watching and or listening to the show, easy fix, right? I mean, they could just contact you, start kind of, diving deep into the content that you have and all the courses that you have. And that's amazing. For the restoration industry, for the rest of the restoration industry, there's really not anything like that. And I think part of it is kind of by design, not by design because of the companies, but by industry design, right? Just because of the AOBs and, the work authorizations, bill insurance. It's like very, very low level. Like anybody can become a salesperson like tomorrow in our industry. So there's not a lot of, that was a long-winded way of saying that there's not specific training for this in-depth aspect of what I personally believe to be one of the most, outside of marketing, like marketing in my opinion is like the absolute most important, right? And then followed by selling. And a lot of people in the roofing industry don't even care about marketing because their marketing is their grit and their hustle, and you just got to be really good at sales and have enough of a some calluses on your knuckles and you're good to go. But like for me personally, that's the order: marketing and then selling. So now that you've got those two, and knowing that the industry doesn't really have that kind of framework and no one's really dissected it that way, someone who's listening to this who's like, this really does make sense. Maybe I should, even as a public adjuster, maybe I should have my presentation put together a little bit better. What is a formula or formulas that people can do to kind of start dissecting what their process looks like now and the common objections that they currently get? And how should they think through the presentations and the
really
potential
good question,
situations?
and frankly, a tough one to answer. I've never been asked this before. The way I've done it is just simply looked at, I tried one pitch and I realized it didn't work. Why? And sales is prescribing a solution to a known problem. Sabri Subi in the book Sell Like Crazy, he says you got to sell like a doctor. And he might not be the only one who said this, but he's the one I read it, so he deserves credit. He's the author who I read it. So when we look at how we break this down, you just need to put yourself in the doctor's shoes. Diagnosing the scenario. Diagnose the scenarios that you encounter, and then your prescription is how you present to those. And then you should back those up with stories. Diagnose, prescribe, story. Diagnose a situation. The house is still burning and I'm there. That's one scenario. It was a small fire. The house is still inhabitable. The house is inhabitable, meaning they're currently there. This can wait. It's not that urgent, right? Versus a water claim. If it was a small deal and they already attempted to clean it up on their own, now there's mold or whatever it is, versus a pipe froze and burst on the 4th floor of a condo. These are different, again, diagnosing the problem. Your prescription is going to be different. If you need to get your team dispatched at 2 a.m. in the middle of a blizzard, is very different than we'll come by at your convenience. And then being able to have that diagnostics, the right presentation for that key scenario for their prescription, and then following that up with the stories to back it. Hey, we worked with a homeowner just like you, a property owner just like you. This is the story that happened to them. This is what they did, which was leading to us. This is how we helped them make this problem go away. So that's kind of the simplest framework that I've followed.
Right. So, and notice, and again, so me being from the investment arena for a long time, so, and it wasn't even body language, even though body language even still was a major role in how the voice tonality took place. The tonality is so important, but part of the training was always getting people, and Jordan Belfort talks about this quite a bit at the 10-10-10, right? They have to be comfortable with your company. They have to be comfortable with the price. They have to be comfortable with yourself as an individual, right? And even in that short little statement that you made, that short little thing, that was you were looping, what they would call looping, right, in his version of the training, and just saying, hey, look, yeah, you're diagnosing the problem, and you're looping around, you're saying, and then you're tying that in with the story that tied it into you and how you provided a solution. So this is a full 10-10-10 like example of, and these are the word tracks, and it's not even the words themselves, it's the formula, that universal principle that you can just take that and then you plug it into a different scenario, and then all of a sudden it works, right? The difficult part is that it's kind of like building a website from scratch. It's like, if you're just looking at a blank screen, you're like, oh my God, where do I start?
Right.
But if you have a template, right, and you got like something to kind of go on, I think that's, the easiest way to kind of go and to start dissecting it, right? So basically what you're saying is, look, figure out your scenarios, what your most common scenarios are, and then basically just write it out and figure out, hey, what other directions can this potentially go in, and what stories do I have for these potential scenarios?
Diagnose,
right?
give them the facts, tell a story. I always use the example, if we just to help everyone kind of digest what this means, getting out of your own head and your own business, because sometimes we learn things, we try to apply it, we're too close. By the way, I have the same problem. I seek advice and counsel from people outside my business and my industry, because I'm like way too close. Can't see the forest from the trees. So for those folks who need a break from the forest, here's the break. If you walked into a doctor, does the doctor, let's say your knee's blown out, torn MCL, ACL, does the doctor tell you that he's an amazing surgeon and start selling himself? Never. Nope. He diagnoses. He says, sir, and he uses the authority tone. Let's tie it all together. The authority tone. This is bad news. Your knee is completely blown up. You have torn ACL, MCL. If you don't do anything, you're never going to walk on that leg the same. What you need is surgery. We're going to go in. We're going to use cadaver parts. It's going to hurt. You're going to have about X weeks of physical therapy. You'll be in a brace. After that, you're going to be out running back on the bike in no time. Okay? Then, so he diagnosed, then he told you the facts. This is the facts of the situation. This is what happens next, X, Y, and Z. This is what needs to happen. You have no choice. When you're on a water loss or fire loss, you can tell them these facts. When you're on a roof, you can tell them these facts. Okay? And then we're going to wrap it up with a story. Hey, not to worry. I just had a patient in who I worked on 3 months ago. He had the exact same surgery. His pain level was lower than he expected. And by the way, he's already out on his bike. Now, when should we get you scheduled in for that surgery? That's how they don't sit there and sell. He doesn't say, I went to Harvard, whatever school, the greatest surgeon school of all times, and I've had over 1 million. They don't even do that. Right. Okay. Yeah.
Same thing with airline pilots. Like we all take flights, right? Like when was the last time you went to the cockpit and be like, hey, before you take me here, can I see your credentials? Like, how good are you really? Do I even like you? Like, it doesn't even like pop up, right? But now here's the thing. Some people feel really uncomfortable with that approach because they're like, oh, you know what? It feels too authoritative. Like, I gotta be likable first. And I totally get that, right? Like the whole mirroring and leading and all of this stuff. And that's great. I think there is something to be said about that. But there's nothing wrong. I think it's the stigma of the sleazy salesperson, the stigma of the plumber's crack, guys like, yep, you got a problem, so like what would be the wrong way to do that? So, because I think people can identify the wrong way of doing that,
pain,
as opposed to
pain. I hate that. So I'll give you an example. Sorry, go ahead.
So
I didn't
worse.
mean to interrupt you.
Yeah, we see that. So there's tons of and I'm down here in Florida, so it's like, it is what it is. Like I've seen so many, especially on the mold remediation side, where they use the black toxic mold. First of all, like all mold is toxic to some degree. That was a media term. So, but again, of course, you get a salesperson and you get the market that's in a frenzy. They start using that terminology, right? Because it's an emotional trigger that are literally scaring people out of their homes. Yet they've been living in this stuff for like 6 months. Now, let me guess, another 2 days is going to like break this person, right? So it's like, and that their entire methodology is scare people into a deal, which is horrible, right? It's the worst thing in the world. So how do you still become authoritative? You can identify the problem, because there's no reason for you to downplay a problem. Let's just call it what it is. It's like, hey, you got a blown out knee. Hey, you have cancer. Hey, you've got your house is on fire. Like, how's the right way, and then what's the wrong way?
You have such fun questions to get into. The wrong way is to over embellish. The wrong way is to tell a version of the story that you know to be factually inaccurate. You tell the objective truth, period. That's it. Through an authoritative stance. The mold. Is this going to kill you tomorrow? The answer is no. Should it be taken care of? The answer is yes. Should it be taken care of soon? Yes. Should anyone be scaring you into making a decision this exact minute? The answer is no. What you need is, we need to come in, do the removal, spray. Are we still doing Benefact? Is that the antimicrobial? Yeah. All right, cool. So my IICRC certification, I remember some things from a decade ago. So we're going to spray with Benefact. We're going to make sure we've got the proper blah, blah, blah. Then we're going to come in and do X, Y, and Z, and whoever does it, this is the right way to do it. So we're literally just stating the facts of the scenario. Any over-embellished stuff, like I just got hired to audit a company who was selling in Texas over video. And they had their stuff recorded, and I was hearing these. I was like scribbling notes, like, stop saying this. They're like, you had hail, and what happens is you're going to get massive leaks. And I'm like, this is all garbage. And I had to sit down with them, like, you need to stop this. These are scare tactics that are not true. So you need to, here's the easiest way. Think of it this way. If you were put on the stand on a jury and they asked you to validate every one of the claims that you made, could you validate it? And if you can, you're saying the right thing. If you can't, you're a slime ball and you're trying to scare people into a sale.
Yeah, that totally makes sense, man. And notice, like, even like when you were saying it, I was like, yeah, I want to buy. So one of the things that I do quite a bit is I like to give options. And honestly, it also comes from a place where I really don't care. Like we've talked about this. I am more than happy to walk away from a deal. And I think that part of my thing just works because I am 100% like able to say, this is what it is, yes, no, right? But in that, I also give options. So I say, hey, look, this is what it is, and I diagnose the issue, and I basically go through what should be done. But then I also let them know what the rest of the market could potentially say about this, right? And I let them know, hey, look, these are the Band-Aids that you could use, and it'll work, and it's totally up to you. Or this is the correct way of doing it, and this is the way that I just sold it to you, and then here's what other companies could potentially say about how bad this is, and blah, 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 blah. And you're going to ultimately do business with whoever you want. So, and for me, like it's a weird little power shift, right? Because you're giving them all the options, and they could very easily go with the more affordable. They could easily go with the person that is more emotionally targeting them. Really, they have all the power, but in some weird way, you've just opened yourself up so much to where the only real, clear, obvious choice is you as the pro, because you didn't necessarily have verbal diarrhea, because that's bad, but you didn't go over the top, but you let them know everything that they not only expressed, but the things that they didn't get around to expressing yet. And I think that that's like where the real big magic
giving them, as you said, the illusion of control,
happens.
Which isn't actually an illusion. They can choose who they want.
Right. Yeah. I mean, that's I think the negative connotation that a lot of people have with like salespeople is like, oh, well, because you use words, and I'm saying you, like all of us, right? You use words like, influence and control and all of these things, persuasion. And it's like, and then of course, and then you get into the whole NLP thing. It's like, oh, neuro-linguistic programming and these word tracks, you're going to hypnotize people. And look, and again, I've been a student for a long time. And, I think that there are things that are really, really powerful. I also think that there's a lot of training there that is more useful for the student, like internal work that they're doing, than the actual delivery of said work, right? I think like NLP, for example, neuro-linguistic programming, is probably more useful for your own self-talk than it is for a conversation over a kitchen table trying to get a deal closed.
Yeah, I've been curious about
but
that one myself. I haven't drawn a complete conclusion on NLP yet. I do think there's some powerful stuff behind it, and I do agree that there's a lot to be had. Speaking of which, you talked about Jordan Belfort, straight line selling. He's got his NLP trigger he uses. I forget the name of those, like scented salts that you're supposed to, like right after you close a sale, he tells you to huff them and then do that again. By the way, this, for anyone who hasn't read that, it's not drugs. It's to trigger a memory. So you lock in, you anchor into that thrill of the hunt of making the sale, and that way the next time you're out, before you go into your sale, you huff it and you're like in that zone again, and it triggers.
Yeah, it's like a scented oil or something like that.
I'm
something
all for
along those lines.
I don't care what's a placebo. If it ain't broken, don't fix it. I've got my weird rituals, by the way. Believe me, they are like, if you heard them, you're like, that stuff's kooky, but it works. Things like this work for me. Self-talk works really well. I do a self-talk meditation every morning and every night. And some people would say you're loopy, you're this, you're that, whatever. But it works. It works for me, right? So if it's working for you, roll with it.
Yeah, no, exactly. Most successful people have some weird little thing that they've picked up either from somebody else or that they developed, or some kind of a self-talk ritual. Look, positive thinking, positive talk will lead to positive thinking. Because if you don't positive talk, then you're left with just the thinking. And then the thinking can kind of go off into like Pluto, and you're just like, next thing you know, you're thinking about, how you're getting this weird, like, spot on your skin. I don't know. You just get, you're like, oh my God, I'm not going to be here next weekend. Right. So like positive speak is really important. And I think that helps train the mind. And that's where I think like it goes into the whole NLP aspect. NLP is just like a weird science. I think people have taken it way too far from a marketing perspective.
It's the perfect thing to take too
sell
far.
Their programs.
It is like a copywriter's dream.
Oh, 100%.
Unlock the hidden secrets of the human mind.
Gotta love it.
Pull the levers to influence decisions.
Yeah. Best book.
Yeah.
One of the best books on copywriting, in my opinion, is Breakthrough Advertising. I keep this on my desk like pretty much like all the time. It like fluctuates in and out. It's such a great psychology book on copywriting primarily, but again, the spoken word and the written word hand in hand. So dude, let's talk real quick, man. Like, we've covered a lot, and this is why I love having you on the show, because these are like topics that can literally go for hours and hours and hours, and there's so much to unpack. If someone wanted to go ahead and reach out to you, they want to go and dig a little bit deeper into your programs and your offerings, where can they go?
Yeah, good question. So here's what I'd say to start. Try before you buy. Go to YouTube, type in the Roof Strategist, and there's 200 and some odd 260, 280 videos to play with. Option 2, freebies. Go to theroofstrategist.com and you'll be able to download a free copy of my Pitch Like a Pro roofing sales training video library. So that's a really great path to check it out. And then if you have questions about products or programs, you can give us a call. 303-222-7133. I just want to be crystal clear. I get a lot of people that just like call and ask for me. You're not going to get me. I only take calls by appointment, but our team, Ali on our team, will be happy to answer any questions. Yes, I'm happy to chat with you. She'll ask you some questions and then get us on the phone if it makes sense. And but I always recommend try before you buy. Make sure that my style resonates with you, and those are really good ways to do it. And if you're somebody who just wants to jump in, give us a call. Happy to chat through it with you, make sure it's a good fit. That's the primary reason for our phone call. I don't get on the phone to sell things. By the way, I was just on the phone the other day. So I don't get on the phone to sell things. I get on the phone to answer questions. The selling should be done before. You should already be excited about these programs prior to us getting on there. If someone's not, I don't talk. And I say, go watch videos. Make sure this is for you. Then call me back.
See, and that And that goes back to marketing, because then that's marketing. That's marketing positioning.
There it is.
You know, it's always, that's what I'm saying. It's like, no matter which way you slice it or dice it, if you do it right, marketing first, sales second. Sales is just one of those things that if marketing goes away tomorrow, you still have that skill set. You could still make something happen. You know what I mean? Adam, man, thank you so much again for joining us here. Once again, really excited. Second time. Hopefully we can go for a third on Restoration Domination. And Restoration Nation, make sure that you check out our boy, Adam, the roof strategist. I'm going to go ahead and leave all the links in the video description and in the show notes below. Look, get your pitch game right. If you're a roofer, like, there's no reason for you not to be doing this. I know that you're teamed up with, I didn't want to name drop or anything. I mean, I'll leave that on you. I know that you've teamed up with a couple of nice players that are part of this, Pitch Pro movement. They're really respected in the arena as well. So if you're a roofer, there's no reason for you not to participate in this. If you are a public adjuster, restoration, any other trade, look at the free content. A lot of this stuff, first of all, is going to apply to you. And just pull out, take the Bruce Lee approach. Use what works and get rid of the rest, right? Plug and play, but more importantly, get your pitch game right, because nothing happens until something is sold, and you cannot serve your community unless you're selling them your service. And really what we all need more of is we need more good quality contractors and quality salespeople that really genuinely care about their client. But to be able to articulate that you are that person is the game. So Adam, again, man, thank you so much. Restoration Nation, tune in next time.
You've been listening to Restoration Domination, interviewing the restoration business's top industry insiders, the movers and shakers, the hustlers and hackers. We hope you've gotten some useful and practical information from the show. Make sure to like, rate, and review. Hook up with us on Instagram and subscribe to our YouTube channel at Restoration Domination to catch video interviews, highlights, and behind-the-scenes content. And follow your host at Rico Garcia Jr. Till next time, this is Restoration Domination. Hustle, hack, dominate.